Nobody believed a reserve sniper with a Purple Heart could have made that impossible shot. Most didn't even notice the quiet specialist with the limp who rarely spoke about her service, until the day she silenced an entire room of boasting veterans with nothing but truth, precision, and a photograph nobody thought existed. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The Nevada sun blazed mercilessly outside the Veterans Affairs Medical Center, cooking the asphalt parking lot until heat waves distorted the distant mountains into wavering mirages. Inside the air-conditioned building, the rehabilitation gym hummed with activity, weights clanking, therapists giving instructions, and the steady mechanical whir of specialized equipment designed to rebuild bodies broken in service to country. The sounds created a constant background symphony as former soldiers, Marines, airmen, and sailors worked through physical therapy routines with the grim determination of people who understood that pain was simply the cost of reclaiming what had been lost. The air carried the mingled scents of antiseptic, sweat, and the faint rubber odor from exercise mats that had supported thousands of painful rehabilitation sessions. In the corner farthest from the entrance, away from the busier stations with their clusters of equipment and constant rotation of patients, Alex Morgan worked alone. Her small frame was dwarfed by the specialized leg press machine as she methodically completed her prescribed repetitions, face set in concentration rather than revealing the discomfort each movement caused. At barely 5 feet 5 inches and weighing less than 130 pounds, she looked more like a college athlete than a decorated combat veteran with 3 deployments behind her. The physical therapist had modified her routine to accommodate limitations that weren't immediately visible to casual observers. Her right knee, reconstructed after taking shrapnel during her final tour, couldn't bear the same weight as her left. The surgical scars were hidden beneath loose-fitting athletic pants, just as her service history remained largely concealed behind her quiet demeanor and professional reserve. The rehab center's standard-issue equipment had been designed for the average male veteran, significantly larger than Alex's petite frame. She'd had to adapt every aspect of her recovery, modifying exercises and adjusting techniques, just as she'd had to adapt every piece of military equipment throughout her service. Everything about military life had been designed for people larger than her, but Alex had learned to compensate through precision, technique, and relentless determination. Dr. Winters approached her station, clipboard in hand, observing her form with professional scrutiny. "Looking much better today, Morgan," he said, making a notation in her file. "How's the pain level? Still experiencing that catching sensation during extension?" "It's manageable," Alex replied without pausing her repetitions. "Maybe a 4 instead of yesterday's 6. Her voice was measured, factual rather than seeking sympathy or acknowledgement. The therapist had learned that Alex consistently underreported her discomfort, treating pain as simply another obstacle to navigate, rather than something deserving complaint. "We'll ice it after you finish this set," Dr. Winters said, marking something else in her file. "Then I want to reassess your range of motion before you leave today." The door to the rehabilitation gym swung open, admitting a group of 3 veterans who entered mid-conversation, their voices carrying easily across the open space. Staff Sergeant Davis led the group, his broad-shouldered frame moving with the confidence of someone whose body had never failed him. His booming laugh punctuated the relative quiet as the newcomers made their way toward the weight training area. "Man, I'm telling you," Davis was saying to the others, not bothering to lower his voice. "These new recruits they're sending over couldn't hit a target if it was painted on their own boots. Standards have gone completely to hell." Alex continued her repetitions, focus unwavering as she counted through the prescribed set. The movement pattern had become almost meditative, allowing her to filter out distractions while maintaining the precise technique that her recovery demanded. "Tell me about it," replied Jenkins, the second veteran, whose sleeve was rolled up to display a Marine Corps tattoo that spanned his entire forearm. "Last time I visited the base, they were handing out achievement medals for qualifying on the range. In my day, that was just the bare minimum expected. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us." Now back to the story. Alex finished her set and moved to adjust the machine's settings for her next exercise. Dr. Winters handed her a towel and a water bottle, which she accepted with a nod of thanks. The conversation from the wait area continued to fill the space, as the three veterans settled into their workout routines. "Speaking of medals," said Collins, the third veteran, a former Army Ranger whose compact build belied his strength. "Did you see that article about the Purple Hearts they're handing out now? Guy in my brother's unit got one for a sprained ankle during a mortar attack. Didn't even have shrapnel wounds." "That's what I'm saying," Davis responded, loading plates onto a barbell with casual ease. "These new soldiers wouldn't have survived a week in the real fighting. They're giving out combat badges to people who never fired a shot in anger." Alex's expression remained neutral as she began her next exercise, but Dr. Winters noticed a slight change in her breathing pattern, the only outward indication that she was listening to the conversation. He'd worked with enough combat veterans to recognize when casual conversation was scraping against hidden wounds. "Morgan," he said quietly, "we can move to the private room if you prefer." Alex shook her head. "I'm fine here," she replied, continuing her routine without interruption. Her therapist nodded, respecting her decision while remaining nearby, his presence offering quiet support. "You see that woman over by the leg press?" Jenkins said, his voice lowered but still audible in the open space. "Heard she's got a Purple Heart. Can't imagine what for. Probably twisted her ankle getting off a helicopter." Dr. Winters frowned, moving as if to intervene, but Alex gave a barely perceptible shake of her head. She had endured far worse than careless words throughout her career, treating dismissive comments like these as simply another form of background noise to be filtered out while focusing on more important matters. The VA's backed up for months with people claiming service-connected disabilities. Davis continued, beginning his bench press routine with a weight that made the bar visibly bend. "Half of them probably just want the benefits without doing the real work." Alex completed her exercise set with the same methodical precision that characterized everything she did. Her movements were controlled and deliberate, focusing on quality rather than speed or weight. As she prepared for her final set, she adjusted her position slightly to compensate for the discomfort that flared in her reconstructed knee, a small adaptation that most observers would miss entirely. The rehabilitation gym had begun filling with more patients as the morning progressed. A newly arrived group of 4 veterans entered, among them Captain Rivera, whose service in special operations had left him with a prosthetic leg and a collection of scars that told stories he rarely shared. Unlike the louder group by the weights, Rivera moved through the space with quiet purpose, nodding respectfully to other patients as he made his way toward the parallel bars where he would practice his gait training. He paused when he saw Alex, changing direction to approach her station. "Morgan," he said by way of greeting, his voice carrying none of the dismissive tone that had characterized the earlier conversation. "Good to see you back at it." Alex nodded, recognizing a fellow professional whose respect wasn't contingent on physical stature or gender. "Rivera, how's the new prosthetic working out?" "Better adjustments on the knee joint," he replied, gesturing toward the carbon fiber leg that extended below his shorts. "Stability's improved about 30% on uneven terrain. Their exchange was brief and technical, the communication of people who understood that recovery was a mission requiring the same dedication and precision as their military service had demanded." Rivera continued toward his station, leaving Alex to complete her final set while Dr. Winters recorded her progress notes. From the wait area, Davis watched the interaction with poorly concealed skepticism. "Rivera's too polite," he said to his companions. "Always treating everyone like they're equals just because they wore the uniform. Some jobs require more than others. That's just reality." Jenkins nodded in agreement, adjusting his weight machine to accommodate his next exercise. "Like those specialty badges they're handing out now to support personnel. In my day, you had to earn those things through blood and fire, not by sitting in an air-conditioned command post." Alex completed her final repetition and carefully released the machine's handles, allowing the weights to return to their resting position with controlled movement rather than letting them drop. She reached for her water bottle, taking a measured drink while Dr. Winters reviewed her performance. "Good work today, Morgan," he said, making final notations in her file. "Your stability has improved significantly since last week. I'd like to increase the resistance by 5% for Friday's session if the inflammation continues decreasing at this rate." Alex nodded her agreement, always approaching her recovery as a technical challenge to be systematically addressed, rather than an emotional burden to be overcome. She gathered her small gym bag and prepared to move to the next station for her range of motion assessment. As she stood, her movement revealed a slight asymmetry in her gait, the barely perceptible hitch that resulted from her reconstructed knee and the compensatory adaptations her body had developed. Most observers wouldn't notice the subtle imbalance, but to trained eyes like those of Dr. Winters, it told the story of significant injury and dedicated recovery. The conversation from the wait area had shifted to war stories, each man attempting to outdo the others with tales of combat experiences and battlefield accomplishments. Their voices grew louder as they described firefights, close calls, and moments of heroism that had defined their military service. 300 meters, moving target, heavy crosswind, Davis was saying, describing a shot he'd made during his deployment. Dropped him with one round while the rest of the squad was still trying to get eyes on target. Jenkins laughed appreciatively. Not bad, not bad. Reminds me of that time outside Kandahar when we were pinned down by those machine gun positions. Took out the gunner at 400 meters with my service rifle. No fancy sniper equipment, just standard issue and good old-fashioned marksmanship. Their stories continued, each one more impressive than the last, creating an informal competition that filled the rehabilitation gym with narratives of exceptional skill and courage. Other patients had begun listening, some nodding in appreciation while others exchanged knowing glances at details that seemed to grow more extraordinary with each telling. Alex moved through her range of motion assessment with Dr. Winters, methodically completing each measurement without comment or complaint. The evaluation required her to push through discomfort as the therapist tested the limits of her reconstructed joint, but her expression remained neutral throughout the process. Looking much better on the lateral stability, Dr. Winters noted, recording the measurements. Still some limitation on the full extension, but that's expected given the nature of the reconstruction. How's the pain during daily activities? Any improvement there? Stairs are easier, Alex replied with her characteristic precision. Morning stiffness is down to about 10 minutes instead of 30. Weather changes still cause some swelling. The technical exchange continued as they completed the assessment, both focused on objective measurements and functional improvements rather than subjective complaints. This approach had characterized Alex's entire recovery process, treating her injury as a problem to be solved through systematic effort and technical skill rather than an occasion for self-pity or special consideration. The war stories from the wait area had reached increasingly impressive proportions, with each veteran attempting to establish dominance through tales of exceptional marksmanship and combat prowess. That's nothing, Collins said after Jenkins finished his latest story. During my second tour, we were operating in mountain terrain. Had to take out a spotter who was calling in mortar fire on our position. 1,000 meters, 30-degree angle, had to calculate for both elevation and wind. Made the shot with a standard M4, not even a designated marksman rifle. The claim drew appreciative whistles and skeptical glances in equal measure. Even in a room full of veterans, there were limits to what could be achieved with standard equipment, and Collins' story was pushing those boundaries. What about you, Rivera? Davis called across the gym. You were with those special operations units. What's the most impressive shot you ever saw? Rivera paused his gait training, balancing carefully between the parallel bars as he considered the question. His expression suggested he was weighing not just the technical details but the appropriateness of sharing operational information in such a casual setting. Wasn't my shot to take, he answered finally. But I witnessed a confirmed kill at over 2,000 meters during a critical extraction operation. Conditions were about as challenging as they get. High altitude, variable winds, moving target. Shooter made the calculation adjustments in seconds, took the shot cold without warm-up rounds. The gym fell momentarily quiet as the veterans processed this information. Even the most experienced among them recognized that a shot at that distance represented exceptional skill beyond what most military personnel ever achieved. 2,000 meters, Davis repeated, skepticism clear in his tone. With what platform? That's pushing the effective range of even the best sniper systems. McMillan TAC 338, Rivera replied matter-of-factly, modified with custom barrel and specialized optics. Shot placement was center mass, instant incapacitation. The technical details carried the ring of truth that silenced immediate challenges, but Davis wasn't ready to concede the implied hierarchy. Must have been one of those legendary special operations snipers we always hear about but never actually meet, he said with a forced laugh. Those guys are like unicorns. Everyone claims they exist, but nobody can produce one. Rivera resumed his gait training without responding to the bait, his focus returning to the careful placement of his prosthetic leg between the parallel bars. His silence carried the confidence of someone who didn't need to prove his credibility through continued argument. Alex had completed her range of motion assessment and was preparing to move to the final station of her rehabilitation session. Dr. Winters handed her the specialized resistance bands she would use for her concluding exercises, along with printed instructions for the home routine she would follow between clinical visits. "Don't push past a pain level of 5 when you're doing these at home," the therapist advised. "And remember to ice afterward regardless of how the knee feels during the exercise. Prevention is more effective than treatment when it comes to inflammation." Alex nodded her understanding, tucking the printed instructions into her gym bag with the same care she would give to mission-critical documents. Her attention to detail extended to every aspect of her recovery, treating rehabilitation protocols with the same seriousness she had once given to operational planning. The conversation about exceptional marksmanship continued among the veterans, with each man contributing stories that established their credentials within the unofficial hierarchy of combat experience. Their voices created a soundtrack of competitive camaraderie that filled the rehabilitation gym with tales of skill, courage, and occasional embellishment. "I still say 2,000 meters is stretching credibility," Davis insisted, returning to Rivera's earlier claim. "Even with the TAC 338, that's at the absolute edge of effective range. You'd need perfect conditions and a shooter with extraordinary capabilities." Rivera completed his gait training exercise before responding, taking the time to carefully lower himself onto a nearby bench and adjust his prosthetic. "The shooter had capabilities that matched the equipment," he said simply. "Some people are exceptional without needing to broadcast it." The statement carried a subtle rebuke that didn't escape Davis, whose expression hardened slightly at the implied criticism. "And I suppose you're going to tell us this mystery super sniper is someone we should all know about?" he challenged. "One of those classified operators whose name never makes it into the reports?" Rivera glanced briefly toward Alex's station before returning his attention to his prosthetic adjustment. "Not my story to tell," he replied, "but I will say appearances can be deceiving when it comes to exceptional capability." The exchange had drawn the attention of most patients in the rehabilitation gym, creating an audience for what had become an increasingly tense conversation about military credentials and combat experiences. Even the therapists had begun listening while continuing their work with patients, recognizing the undercurrents of professional identity and respect that flowed beneath the surface of casual banter. Alex had moved to her final exercise station, methodically setting up the resistance bands according to Dr. Winters' specifications. Her movements were precise and economical, reflecting the same efficiency that had characterized her military service. Nothing was wasted, nothing exaggerated, every action serving a specific purpose in accomplishing the mission at hand. 2,000 meters, Jenkins said with a low whistle, returning to the earlier claim. "That would put this mystery shooter in the record books. Who was it, Rivera? Some giant force recon marine with biceps the size of my thighs?" Rivera completed his adjustment without looking up. "Size isn't the determining factor in exceptional marksmanship," he replied. "Discipline, calculation ability, and technical proficiency matter more than physical dimensions." The conversation might have continued along these lines indefinitely, with claims and counterclaims establishing an informal hierarchy among the veterans, had Captain Garcia not entered the rehabilitation gym at that moment. As the senior military liaison for the VA Medical Center, Garcia's presence immediately shifted the atmosphere. The veterans straightened instinctively, old habits of military courtesy reasserting themselves even in civilian clothes and a medical setting. "Gentlemen," Garcia acknowledged the group with a nod before turning her attention to Alex. "Morgan, do you have a moment? There's someone here who'd like to speak with you regarding the training program we discussed." Alex nodded, carefully removing the resistance bands from her leg and storing them in their designated container before standing. Her movement revealed again the slight asymmetry in her gait, the barely perceptible compensation for her reconstructed knee that most observers would miss entirely. "The ceremony is scheduled for next Friday," Garcia continued as Alex gathered her belongings. "They're particularly interested in having you participate given your unique perspective and experience." Alex paused, her attention shifting from Garcia to the increasingly tense conversation that continued behind her. The exchange had escalated, with Davis doubling down on his earlier skepticism about exceptional marksmanship. "I'm just saying." Davis insisted, his voice carrying across the rehabilitation gym. These legendary 1,000-meter shots make great stories, but the reality is that most combat happens at distances measured in dozens of meters, not thousands. Garcia followed Alex's gaze, taking in the dynamics of the rehabilitation gym with the experienced assessment of a career officer. "I see some of our veterans are engaged in the time-honored tradition of comparative war stories," she observed quietly. "Should I intervene before it gets uncomfortable?" Alex shook her head slightly. "They're just establishing territory," she replied. "It's harmless." As they prepared to leave, Davis noticed the purple heart pin discreetly affixed to Alex's gym bag, a small detail that most people would miss entirely. His expression shifted from casual dismissal to focused scrutiny. "Excuse me," he called, directing his attention toward Alex for the first time since entering the rehabilitation gym. "That's a Purple Heart pin, right? You mind sharing the story behind it?" The question silenced other conversations throughout the space. Veterans recognized the implicit challenge, a public request for credentials that would establish Alex's place in their informal hierarchy of combat experience. Garcia's expression tightened. "Morgan, we don't need to." "It's fine," Alex interrupted quietly, turning to face Davis directly. Her voice remained measured and professional, revealing none of the emotion that such questions typically evoked. "Afghanistan, Kunar Province, 2017. Our forward position took direct fire during a critical extraction operation. I sustained injuries during the engagement." Davis nodded slowly, his expression suggesting he'd expected something less substantial. "Tough country, Kunar," he acknowledged. "What unit were you with?" "I did 2 tours there myself." "That information is classified," Garcia interjected before Alex could respond. "Morgan's service record includes operations that remain under restricted disclosure protocols." The statement created a ripple of interest throughout the rehabilitation gym. Classified operations carried a particular mystique among veterans, suggesting involvement in the kind of high-risk, high-value missions that existed at the edges of conventional military activities. "No disrespect intended," Davis said, raising his hands in a conciliatory gesture while his tone remained skeptical. "Just trying to connect with a fellow veteran. We all served, we all have stories." Rivera, who had remained silent during this exchange, carefully rose from his bench and moved to stand near Alex. His positioning wasn't obvious to casual observers, but veterans recognized the subtle message of alliance and support. "Some stories aren't meant for casual conversation," Rivera said quietly. "Some missions never make it into the official narrative." The implication hung in the air, creating a momentary silence as the veterans processed this information. Service records with classified components suggested specialized roles and operations beyond what most military personnel experienced, regardless of branch or deployment history. Davis seemed prepared to press further when Dr. Howard, the Rehabilitation Center's director, entered the gym. His presence immediately shifted the dynamics of the space, his authority as both a medical professional and retired military officer commanding automatic respect. "Captain Garcia," Howard acknowledged with a nod. "I see you've found Morgan. The general is waiting in the conference room whenever you're ready." The mention of a general visiting the VA Medical Center created another ripple of interest among the veterans. General officers rarely made appearances at rehabilitation facilities unless something significant was occurring: ceremonial events, program evaluations, or matters involving specialized personnel. "We'll be there momentarily," Garcia replied before turning back to Alex. "Are you comfortable proceeding with the discussion as planned?" Alex nodded once, her expression revealing nothing of her thoughts about the unexpected confrontation or the pending meeting with a general officer. She adjusted her gym bag, the motion drawing attention again to the slight asymmetry in her gait, the subtle evidence of injury that most observers would overlook entirely. As Alex and Garcia prepared to leave, Collins spoke up from his position near the weight machines. "Before you go," he said, directing his comment toward Alex, "I'm curious, what's the most challenging shot you ever made?" Everyone has that one moment they're particularly proud of. The question seemed innocent enough, a standard conversational gambit among veterans with combat experience. But the timing and context gave it additional weight, creating an impromptu test of Alex's claimed credentials. Rivera's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. Garcia opened her mouth as if to intervene, then paused, deferring to Alex's judgment about how to handle the situation. "I don't discuss operational details," Alex replied simply, her tone neither defensive nor confrontational. "The results speak for themselves." The response was professional and appropriate, but Davis interpreted it as evasion rather than operational security. "Come on," he pressed, his tone taking on a challenging edge. "We're all veterans here. One war story won't compromise national security." Dr. Howard stepped forward, his intervention designed to diffuse the escalating tension. "Gentlemen, this is a rehabilitation facility, not a VFW hall. Personal boundaries deserve respect, particularly regarding combat experiences." The reminder carried the weight of both medical authority and military courtesy, creating space for Alex and Garcia to exit without further interrogation. As they turned to leave, Davis made a final comment, his voice pitched to carry across the now quiet gym. "No disrespect to anyone with a Purple Heart," he said, the qualification undermining the sentiment that followed. "But there's a difference between being in the vicinity of combat and being the tip of the spear. Some of us did the real fighting, while others provided support from relative safety." Rivera's expression hardened at the implied dismissal, but Alex continued toward the door without visible reaction. Her face remained composed, her movements measured and precise as she navigated the exit with the same controlled focus she applied to every aspect of her recovery. As the door closed behind them, Garcia released an exasperated breath. "I apologize for that," she said, leading the way toward the conference room. "Some veterans have difficulty adjusting to the reality that combat effectiveness isn't determined by physical size or volume of voice." "It's a common misconception," Alex replied without emotion, her response suggesting long familiarity with such attitudes. "Technical proficiency isn't always visible from the outside." They walked in silence through the medical center's long corridor, passing treatment rooms where other veterans received care for injuries sustained during their service. Each doorway revealed glimpses of the aftermath of war: physical therapy sessions, prosthetic fittings, psychological counseling, all the various ways that military service continued to reshape lives long after deployments had ended. The conference room door was closed when they arrived, a small sign indicating an active meeting in progress. Garcia knocked once before opening the door, revealing a space designed for medical consultations rather than military briefings. The furniture was arranged to facilitate conversation rather than formal presentations, with comfortable chairs positioned around a central table. 3 people occupied the room, their conversation pausing as Alex and Garcia entered. 2 wore the distinctive uniforms of Army officers, a brigadier general whose campaign ribbons and unit insignia told the story of extensive combat experience, and a lieutenant colonel whose medical caduceus identified her as part of the medical corps. The 3rd individual wore civilian business attire, but his bearing and haircut suggested recent military service. "General Ellis," Garcia said by way of introduction, "this is Specialist Alex Morgan." The general rose immediately, extending his hand with the automatic courtesy of a professional officer. "Morgan," he acknowledged, his handshake firm but not demonstrative. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Your insights will be valuable for the program we're developing." Alex nodded once, maintaining the professional reserve that characterized all her interactions. The general gestured toward chairs around the table, inviting everyone to be seated as the meeting began in earnest. "Morgan," General Ellis began once everyone was settled, "I'll be direct. We're establishing a specialized training program for female snipers and designated marksmen. The initiative focuses on adapting techniques and equipment for operators with smaller physical profiles than our traditional training accounts for." The lieutenant colonel opened a folder containing what appeared to be technical specifications and training protocols. "Our current systems are designed around male physiology," she explained. "Stock lengths, trigger pull weights, recoil management, everything assumes physical dimensions that don't apply to many female operators. The result is decreased effectiveness that has nothing to do with inherent capability." The civilian nodded in agreement. "We've been reviewing after-action reports from operations where female snipers demonstrated exceptional results despite equipment limitations. Your name appears prominently in several classified assessments." Alex's expression remained neutral, neither confirming nor denying the implied connection to specialized operations that remained outside official acknowledgement. Her discipline extended to maintaining operational security even in the company of senior officers with appropriate clearances. What we're proposing, General Ellis continued, is a comprehensive overhaul of our training protocols and equipment specifications. We need subject matter experts who understand both the technical requirements and the practical application in actual combat conditions. The lieutenant colonel slid several documents across the table. These modifications to standard platforms have shown promising results in preliminary testing. What we lack is feedback from operators who have field experience with similar adaptations. Alex studied the technical specifications with the focused attention of someone evaluating mission-critical equipment. Her eyes moved methodically across the diagrams, assessing calculations and engineering designs with the precision she brought to every aspect of her professional life. The stock length is still too long for operators under 5'6", she observed after several moments of silence, and the trigger assembly needs additional modification to accommodate smaller hand dimensions without compromising pull weight consistency. The technical assessment continued as Alex identified specific improvements that would enhance functionality for smaller operators. Her analysis was detailed and precise, reflecting intimate knowledge of how equipment specifications affected performance in field conditions. "This is exactly the kind of expertise we need," General Ellis said when Alex had finished her initial assessment. "Technical knowledge combined with operational experience that can translate into effective training protocols." The meeting progressed with detailed discussions of equipment modifications, training methodologies, and performance metrics that would evaluate effectiveness across diverse operator profiles. Throughout the conversation, Alex maintained her characteristic precision, offering insights based on technical expertise rather than personal anecdotes or war stories. As the meeting concluded, General Ellis addressed Alex directly. "Morgan, your involvement would be invaluable to this initiative. We need instructors who can speak from experience about overcoming the limitations of standard equipment while maintaining exceptional performance standards." Alex considered the proposal with the same methodical assessment she applied to all tactical decisions. "When would the program begin?" she asked. Her question focused on practical implementation rather than personal considerations. "Initial cadre development starts next month at Fort Benning," the general replied. "We'd want you there for equipment evaluation and protocol development before the first trainees arrive in January." "My medical clearance is still pending," Alex noted, gesturing subtly toward her reconstructed knee. "Dr. Winters estimates another 8 weeks before full certification for field operations." The lieutenant colonel nodded understanding. "We've reviewed your medical file. The timeline aligns with our development phase, which focuses on equipment modification and training protocols rather than field exercises. Your rehabilitation would continue with the medical staff at Benning." Alex processed this information, weighing professional opportunities against rehabilitation requirements with the same calculated precision she brought to every decision. "I'll need to review the complete program specifications," she said finally, "and confirm that my medical protocols can transfer without disruption." "Of course," General Ellis agreed, signaling the civilian who produced a secure tablet containing additional program details. "Everything you need to make an informed decision is included here. Take the weekend to review the materials, and we can reconnect on Monday." The meeting concluded with professional courtesy, everyone standing as the general prepared to depart. As they moved toward the door, Ellis paused, turning back to address Alex directly. "Morgan," he said, his tone shifting slightly from formal to personal. "Off the record, that shot in Kunar province. 2,847 meters, according to the after-action analysis, still stands as the longest confirmed engagement by any American operator, male or female. That kind of exceptional performance is exactly what this program needs to showcase." Alex nodded once, neither confirming nor denying the reference to an operation that remained classified in most official records. Her discipline extended to maintaining operational security even when senior officers referenced details that existed in restricted documentation. As they exited the conference room, the sounds of the rehabilitation gym drifted down the corridor, weights clanking, therapists giving instructions, veterans continuing their recovery with the same determination that had characterized their military service. The familiar audio landscape provided backdrop for Garcia's quiet observation. "Ellis doesn't offer compliments lightly," she noted as they walked. "His acknowledgement of that operation speaks volumes about its significance." Alex adjusted her gym bag, the movement drawing attention again to the purple heart pin affixed to the strap. Results matter more than recognition, she replied, her philosophy summarized in 4 words that captured her approach to both military service and personal recovery. They had nearly reached the exit when the rehabilitation gym door opened, releasing Davis, Jenkins, and Collins into the corridor. The 3 veterans paused when they saw Alex and Garcia, the unexpected encounter creating momentary tension in the otherwise unremarkable hallway. Davis appeared ready to continue their earlier conversation when his attention shifted to something behind Alex, General Ellis emerging from a nearby office, his uniform and rank immediately commanding attention from former military personnel. General, Davis acknowledged automatically, his posture straightening with ingrained military courtesy. Sir. Ellis returned the greeting with professional politeness, his eyes moving between the 3 veterans and Alex with the experienced assessment of a career commander. Gentlemen, he said, nodding acknowledgement before turning to Alex. Morgan, before you go, the modifications you suggested for the TAC 338 trigger assembly, would you be available tomorrow to review those specifications with our technical team? Yes, sir, Alex replied. I can be here at 0800. Excellent, the general said with a nod. Your insights on that platform have already improved performance metrics significantly. The engineers are particularly interested in your recommendations for recoil management on the modified stock. The exchange was brief and professional, but its implications hung in the air as Ellis continued toward the facility exit. The general's casual reference to Alex's expertise with the TAC 338, the same weapons platform Rivera had mentioned during the earlier discussion of exceptional marksmanship, created a connection that was impossible to miss. Davis's expression shifted as he processed this new information, reassessing Alex in light of the interaction they had just witnessed. You're familiar with the TAC 338 platform? He asked, his tone more curious than challenging. I have some experience with various weapons systems, Alex replied, her understatement characteristic of her professional approach. She neither confirmed nor denied specific operational knowledge, maintaining the security protocols that governed classified information. Garcia checked her watch with deliberate emphasis. Morgan, we should continue our discussion about the training program. I believe we're scheduled to meet Dr. Winters about your transfer protocols. The intervention provided a natural exit from the potentially complicated conversation, but Rivera's arrival from the rehabilitation gym created an unexpected complication. The special operations veteran approached with his distinctive gait, the subtle accommodation for his prosthetic leg that most people wouldn't notice, but that Alex recognized immediately from her own adaptations. Morgan, Rivera acknowledged with a nod before turning to Davis. I see you've met our resident long-distance specialist. The comment hung in the air, its implications clear to everyone familiar with military terminology. Long-distance specialists in combat contexts referred to snipers with exceptional range capabilities, operators who could engage targets beyond the effective reach of standard marksmen. Davis looked between Rivera and Alex, reassessing the unassuming woman whose Purple Heart he had casually dismissed earlier that morning. You're the shooter, he said finally, recognition dawning. The one Rivera mentioned, 2,000 meters in Kunar Province. 2,847. Rivera corrected quietly. Longest confirmed engagement by an American operator in Afghanistan. Created the extraction window that allowed our entire team to withdraw without additional casualties. Alex remained silent, neither confirming nor denying the operational details that Rivera had chosen to share. Her discipline regarding classified information remained absolute, even when others referenced operations that existed in restricted documentation. Davis processed this information, struggling to reconcile his previous dismissal with the reality now becoming apparent. That's, he began, then stopped, searching for appropriate words. That's extraordinary marksmanship, by any standard. Technical proficiency isn't always visible from the outside, Rivera observed, echoing Alex's earlier comment to Garcia. Some of the most effective operators I've worked with never felt the need to broadcast their capabilities. The statement carried implicit criticism of the boastful conversation that had dominated the rehabilitation gym earlier, but Davis seemed too preoccupied with this new information to take offense. He studied Alex with new attention, noticing details he had previously overlooked. The precision in her movements, the focused awareness in her eyes, the subtle indicators of someone trained to observe and calculate rather than simply react. I owe you an apology, he said finally, the admission clearly difficult for someone accustomed to dominating social hierarchies through physical presence and combat credentials. I made assumptions that were completely unfounded. Alex nodded once, accepting the acknowledgement without requiring elaboration or emotional display. Her response was characteristic of her approach to all interactions, professional, measured, and focused on moving forward rather than dwelling on past misunderstandings. We all serve according to our capabilities, she said simply. Different roles, same mission. The statement offered reconciliation without requiring Davis to lose face completely. A professional courtesy that reflected Alex's understanding of military social dynamics. Her approach acknowledged the apology while providing a pathway toward more respectful interaction in the future. Garcia checked her watch again, this time with genuine concern rather than tactical interruption. Morgan, we really should meet with Dr. Winters before he leaves for the weekend. The transfer paperwork needs his signature if we're going to maintain your rehabilitation schedule. Alex nodded agreement, preparing to continue toward their scheduled meeting. As they turned to leave, Davis spoke again, his tone carrying none of the dismissive quality that had characterized his earlier comments. Morgan, he said, the single word carrying the weight of a more complicated statement that military courtesy prevented him from expressing directly. Alex paused, turning back with the same controlled precision that characterized all her movements. Her expression remained neutral, neither expecting nor requiring additional acknowledgement. That shot in Kunar province. Davis continued after a moment's hesitation. Would it be appropriate to ask about the technical aspects? Not the operational details, just the shooting mechanics. For professional development purposes. Alex hesitated. Years of security training creating automatic caution about discussing operational details. But she recognized the deeper current beneath Davis's question, the professional respect that transcends military hierarchy, connecting specialists across branches and backgrounds through their shared commitment to technical excellence. The non-classified aspects, she replied after a moment, her decision reflecting both professional courtesy and recognition of genuine interest. I can address the shooting mechanics in general terms. Garcia consulted her tablet, checking the day's schedule. We have 15 minutes before Dr. Winters expects us, she offered, recognizing the significance of this exchange between veterans whose initial interaction had been marked by misunderstanding. Davis nodded appreciation, his posture shifting subtly from confrontational to attentive. Jenkins and Collins moved closer, their earlier skepticism replaced by professional curiosity. Rivera positioned himself slightly apart, already familiar with the technical aspects, but interested in how Alex would present information that balanced security requirements against professional education. TAC 338 platform, modified for smaller frame operators. Alex began, her voice taking on the measured cadence of an instructor rather than a storyteller. Custom stock with adjustable length of pull, reduced to accommodate shorter arm dimensions. Trigger assembly recalibrated to maintain consistent pull weight while accommodating smaller hand geometry. The technical description continued, Alex outlining equipment modifications and shooting mechanics without revealing operational details that would compromise security. Her explanation focused on the engineering challenges of adapting precision platforms for operators with smaller physical dimensions, challenges she had overcome through technical knowledge rather than brute strength. Ballistic calculations at extreme distance require accounting for multiple environmental variables simultaneously, she explained. Elevation, temperature, humidity, wind speed at various distances along the bullet path, rotation of the Earth for shots beyond 2,000 meters. Davis nodded, understanding, his expression reflecting genuine appreciation for the technical complexity involved. The mental mathematics alone would challenge most operators, he acknowledged. Calculating those variables in real time under operational pressure. That's exceptional regardless of platform or physical dimensions. We had specialized ballistic calculators, Alex noted, careful to remain within security guidelines while providing meaningful insight. But equipment can fail. Every long-distance specialist trains to perform calculations manually as backup. The conversation continued with the focused intensity of professionals discussing technical aspects of their craft. The earlier tension had dissolved completely, replaced by the mutual respect of veterans recognizing expertise regardless of its source. What had begun as dismissive skepticism had transformed into genuine professional exchange. As Alex explained the recoil management techniques she'd developed for the modified TAC 338, Davis interrupted with a question that revealed both his own expertise and his emerging recognition of hers. With the reduced stock dimensions, how did you maintain stability during follow-through? Standard techniques assume physical mass that smaller operators don't have. The question demonstrated genuine understanding of the technical challenges smaller snipers faced, an understanding that suggested Davis was processing new information rather than defending previous assumptions. Body position modifications, Alex replied, her explanation precise and technical. Standard prone position creates inefficient recoil transfer for smaller frames. I developed an alternative positioning that distributes force along different contact points, maintaining stability without requiring additional mass. She demonstrated the subtle position adjustments using hand gestures rather than full body movement, the explanation characteristic of her technical approach to all challenges. Her focus remained on the mechanical principles rather than personal accomplishment, treating exceptional marksmanship as a technical problem solved through systematic analysis rather than inherent talent. The principles apply across platforms, she concluded, her educational approach inclusive rather than exclusive. Modified techniques can improve performance for any operator whose physical dimensions don't match standard equipment designs. Davis processed this information with visible reconsideration of previous assumptions. I never considered how much standard techniques assume about operator dimensions, he admitted. Everything from basic marksmanship training to advanced sniper school is designed around average male physiology. Most military systems are, Alex noted without resentment, her observation factual rather than accusatory. Adaptation becomes another skill set to develop alongside standard training. Garcia checked her watch again, this time with genuine concern. Morgan, we really need to meet Dr. Winters now, she said. The general will expect an answer about the training program by Monday. Alex nodded acknowledgement, gathering her gym bag with the same efficient movement that characterized all her actions. As she prepared to leave, Davis extended his hand, the gesture carrying more significance than casual observers would recognize. Morgan, he said as they shook hands, I'd appreciate the opportunity to continue this conversation sometime. There's clearly a lot I could learn about modified shooting techniques. The acknowledgement represented significant personal growth. A combat veteran with extensive experience, recognizing that someone he had initially dismissed might possess valuable knowledge worth learning. Alex accepted the gesture with characteristic professionalism, neither dwelling on the earlier dismissal nor overemphasizing the current recognition. Technical excellence is always worth pursuing, she replied, the statement reflecting her approach to both military service and personal recovery. Improvement comes from questioning assumptions and testing alternatives. As Alex and Garcia continued toward their meeting with Dr. Winters, Rivera rejoined the three veterans, his expression suggesting satisfaction with how the encounter had concluded. The rehabilitation center corridor resumed its normal activity, medical staff and patients navigating their daily routines, while the significance of what had transpired remained known only to those directly involved. The following morning found Alex in the medical center's specialized training room, a space normally used for occupational therapy that had been temporarily converted for equipment evaluation. Technical specifications were displayed on wall-mounted screens, while modified weapons platforms occupied secure cases along one wall. The room's windows had been covered with privacy film, converting what had been designed as an open therapeutic space into a secure facility for reviewing classified equipment modifications. General Ellis stood near the central table, deep in conversation with two civilian technicians whose credentials indicated affiliation with advanced weapons development programs. Captain Garcia supervised security protocols at the room's entrance, ensuring that only authorized personnel could access the sensitive materials being discussed. Alex entered precisely at 0800, her punctuality reflecting the same discipline she brought to every aspect of her professional life. She carried a small tablet containing notes from her review of the program materials, her observations organized with the methodical precision that characterized all her work. Morgan, Ellis acknowledged her arrival with a nod. These are the technical leads for the Modified Platforms project. They're particularly interested in your feedback on the trigger assembly redesigns. The introduction launched a detailed technical discussion that occupied the next 3 hours. Alex reviewed specifications, examined prototype components, and provided feedback that balanced theoretical engineering with practical field application. Her insights were precise and actionable, identifying potential improvements that would enhance performance across diverse operational conditions. The modified stock dimensions address length issues effectively, she noted while examining one prototype, but the cheek weld needs additional adjustment options for operators with smaller facial geometry. Current configuration assumes bone structure that doesn't apply to many female snipers. The technical leads documented her observations, their expressions reflecting appreciation for insights that combined engineering knowledge with practical experience. Their questions became increasingly detailed as the session progressed, acknowledging Alex's expertise by seeking her guidance on specific design elements. "Your input is exactly what this program needs," the lead engineer commented as they prepared to conclude the morning session. The technical specifications look different when viewed through the lens of actual field experience with these modifications. As the meeting wrapped up, Dr. Winters arrived to conduct Alex's scheduled physical therapy session. The rehabilitation center had agreed to temporarily relocate her treatment to accommodate the secure equipment review, bringing necessary medical equipment to the specialized training room rather than moving sensitive materials to the public rehabilitation gym. The medical staff secured a section of the room while the technical leads packed prototype components into specialized containers. Alex's transition from weapons specialist to rehabilitation patient was seamless. Her approach to physical therapy, characterized by the same focused determination she brought to professional assessments. Dr. Winters began their session with range of motion measurements, documenting continued improvement in Alex's reconstructed knee. "The stability is significantly better than last week," he noted, recording the measurements in her medical file. "How's the pain level during extended standing?" "Manageable," Alex replied with her characteristic precision. "Duration capacity has increased to approximately 40 minutes before discomfort reaches level 5. The therapy session continued with specialized exercises designed to strengthen supporting muscles while protecting the reconstructed joint." Alex approached each movement with the same methodical attention she applied to ballistic calculations, treating physical rehabilitation as another technical challenge to be systematically addressed. As they completed the scheduled exercises, Dr. Winters reviewed the transfer protocols that would continue Alex's rehabilitation at Fort Benning if she accepted the training position. "The medical facilities there can maintain your current regimen without interruption," he explained. "I've included detailed progression guidelines for their physical therapy staff." Alex examined the transfer documentation with the same careful scrutiny she'd given the weapon specifications earlier. Her recovery represented another mission requiring precise execution and systematic progress, approach she applied to all aspects of her life. "The protocols are comprehensive," she noted after reviewing the materials. "Will you be available for consultation if their staff has questions about progression timing?" "Absolutely," Winters confirmed. "I've included contact information for direct communication. Your case is unique enough that ongoing consultation would be appropriate." As they concluded the therapy session, Garcia returned with news that would affect Alex's immediate plans. "General Ellis has requested your participation in a demonstration this afternoon," she explained. "The program development team from Fort Benning has arrived early, and they're interested in seeing practical application of the modified techniques you've developed." Alex processed this information with her usual efficient assessment. "What time and location?" she asked, focusing on operational details rather than expressing surprise or concern about the unexpected request. 1400 at the classified range facility, Garcia replied. "Transportation has been arranged." Ellis authorized a temporary duty status upgrade to accommodate the demonstration. The implications were significant. A demonstration for the program development team would require physical activity beyond what Alex's current rehabilitation status officially permitted. The temporary duty status upgrade represented formal acknowledgement that her expertise warranted exceptional measures. "Dr. Winters will need to approve the physical requirements," Alex noted, maintaining the disciplined approach to recovery that had characterized her rehabilitation process. Current protocols limit weight-bearing activity to scheduled therapy sessions. Winters consulted Alex's medical file, weighing professional requirements against rehabilitation priorities. "I can authorize limited demonstration activities," he offered after careful consideration. No more than 30 minutes in shooting positions, with mandatory rest periods between demonstrations. And I'll need to be present to monitor stress indicators. Alex nodded agreement, accepting the medical limitations as operational parameters rather than restrictions. Her approach to recovery mirrored her approach to military operations, identifying constraints and developing protocols that accomplished objectives within established boundaries. As they finalized arrangements for the afternoon demonstration, the door to the specialized training room opened to admit Davis, Jenkins, and Collins. The three veterans paused at the threshold, their expressions suggesting surprise at finding Alex still present when they had expected to meet with General Ellis alone. Garcia moved to intercept them, her posture indicating potential concern about unauthorized personnel entering a secure area. "Gentlemen, this is currently a restricted session. How can I help you?" "We were told to report here at 1100, Davis explained, producing an official notification on his phone. "Something about consulting on training protocols for the new program?" Ellis emerged from the secure storage area where he had been reviewing equipment with the technical leads. "They're authorized, Captain," he confirmed. "I requested their participation as additional subject matter experts for the conventional aspects of the training program." The situation created an unexpected intersection of Alex's past and potential future. The veterans who had dismissed her capabilities the previous day now invited to contribute to a program where she would serve as a primary technical resource. The potential for conflict existed, but the professional environment and Ellis's direct involvement created context for continued cooperation rather than renewed confrontation. Davis acknowledged Alex with a respectful nod, his manner markedly different from their initial encounter. "Morgan," he said simply, the greeting carrying none of the dismissive quality that had characterized their previous interaction. "Davis," Alex replied with equivalent professionalism, neither dwelling on past misunderstanding nor overemphasizing current cooperation. Her focus remained on the mission requirements rather than interpersonal dynamics, treating all participants as potential contributors to operational success. Ellis surveyed the assembled personnel with the experienced assessment of a career commander. "We have diverse expertise gathered in this room," quote, he observed. "That diversity is precisely what this program needs to develop comprehensive training protocols that address the full spectrum of operational requirements." The general's statement established clear expectations for professional collaboration, creating framework for specialists with different backgrounds and experiences to contribute their unique perspectives. His approach acknowledged the potential for tension, while providing structure that channeled energy toward constructive outcomes. Morgan's expertise with modified platforms and shooting techniques for smaller operators will form the technical foundation. Ellis continued, his briefing establishing roles without creating hierarchy. Davis, Jenkins, and Collins will contribute experience with standard platforms and conventional techniques that remain relevant regardless of operator dimensions. The assignment of complementary rather than competing roles diffused potential rivalry, creating space for professional respect to replace previous misconceptions. Ellis's leadership transformed what might have become contested territory into collaborative environment where diverse expertise served common objectives. This afternoon's demonstration will provide practical context for the program development team, the general concluded. They need to understand both the challenges smaller operators face with standard equipment and the effectiveness of modified techniques in overcoming those challenges. As the briefing continued, Alex maintained her characteristic focus and reserve, treating the unexpected developments as mission parameters to be incorporated into operational planning rather than personal complications requiring emotional response. Her approach remained consistent: identify objectives, assess available resources, develop implementation strategies, and execute with precision. The classified range facility occupied a secluded section of the military reservation adjacent to the VA Medical Center. Unlike standard training ranges with their exposed firing positions and visible target areas, this facility had been designed for evaluating specialized equipment and techniques without revealing their capabilities to unauthorized observers. High walls surrounded the complex, while enhanced security protocols restricted access to personnel with specific clearances. Alex arrived at precisely 1,345 hours, 15 minutes before the scheduled demonstration. She carried a small equipment bag containing personal items that complemented the specialized gear already staged at the facility. Dr. Winters accompanied her as medical support, carrying monitoring equipment that would ensure compliance with rehabilitation protocols during the demonstration. The range master greeted them at the secure entrance, verifying identities and clearances before escorting them to the equipment preparation area. The modified TAT-338 has been positioned at firing station 3, he informed Alex. Environmental controls have been adjusted to simulate conditions comparable to the Kunar operation for demonstration purposes. The information indicated that the demonstration had been specifically designed to recreate aspects of the record-setting engagement that had established Alex's reputation among those with appropriate clearances to know the operational details. The attention to authenticity reflected the program's commitment to realistic training that prepared operators for actual field conditions rather than idealized scenarios. General Ellis waited in the preparation area with the program development team from Fort Benning, 4 officers and 2 civilian specialists whose credentials indicated extensive experience with advanced marksmanship training. Captain Garcia coordinated security protocols while technical leads from the morning session prepared equipment for detailed performance monitoring during the demonstration. Morgan, Ellis acknowledged her arrival with a professional nod. The team is particularly interested in seeing the modified positioning techniques you developed for the TAC-338 platform. We've set up instrumentation to capture the biomechanics for incorporation into training protocols. The preparation area also contained Davis, Jenkins, and Collins, who had arrived earlier to provide baseline demonstrations of conventional techniques. Their presence created natural comparison that would highlight both the challenges smaller operators faced with standard approaches and the effectiveness of Alex's modifications in overcoming those challenges. As Alex prepared for the demonstration, Dr. Winters established monitoring equipment that would track her physical status throughout the session. "Remember the 30-minute limitation in shooting positions," he reminded her, attaching sensors that would measure stress indicators and joint pressure during the demonstration. "I'll signal when you need to implement rest periods." Alex nodded understanding, incorporating medical requirements into her operational planning, just as she would account for environmental conditions in field operations. Her approach treated all parameters as factors to be managed, rather than limitations to be resented, reflecting the same disciplined mindset that had enabled her exceptional performance throughout her military career. The range master provided final briefing on demonstration parameters, explaining target placements and simulated conditions that would approximate the operational environment of the Kunar engagement. His presentation included technical details that would normally remain classified, but the secure facility and cleared participants permitted more comprehensive discussion than would be possible in uncontrolled environments. "The primary demonstration target has been positioned at 2,800 meters, he explained, displaying topographic representations on secure monitors. Environmental systems have been programmed to simulate wind conditions recorded during the original operation, including variable vectors at different distances along the bullet path." The attention to detail impressed even the experienced specialists from Fort Benning, whose expressions reflected appreciation for the sophisticated simulation capabilities. Their questions revealed technical knowledge that placed them among the most qualified marksmanship experts in the military establishment, precisely the audience who could effectively evaluate and implement Alex's modified techniques. As the briefing concluded, Ellis addressed the assembled group with the clarity and purpose that characterized effective military leadership. "What you'll witness today represents years of specialized development by an operator who identified technical challenges and systematically developed solutions. These modifications have proven effective in actual combat conditions, producing results that speak for themselves." The range master led the group to the demonstration area, a sophisticated facility designed to simulate diverse operational environments, while providing comprehensive data collection for performance analysis. Multiple firing positions faced an enclosed range where advanced target systems could reproduce combat scenarios with unprecedented realism. Davis, Jenkins, and Collins had already completed their demonstrations using standard techniques and equipment, establishing baseline performance metrics that would highlight the unique challenges smaller operators faced. Their results reflected exceptional marksmanship by conventional standards, consistent groupings at distances that would impress most military personnel. Alex approached firing station 3 with the same methodical focus she brought to all professional activities. The modified TAC-338 waited in its prepared position, the custom platform representing years of specialized development to accommodate operators with smaller physical dimensions. Her examination of the weapon was thorough and systematic, checking each component with precise movements that revealed intimate familiarity with the system. Dr. Winters positioned himself nearby, monitoring equipment displaying real-time data about Alex's physical condition. His professional focus remained on ensuring compliance with rehabilitation protocols while supporting the demonstration requirements. "Remember to signal if the knee begins registering above pain level 4, he reminded her quietly. Alex nodded acknowledgement without breaking her equipment inspection routine. Her approach treated medical guidelines as operational parameters rather than restrictions, incorporating them into mission planning just as she would account for environmental conditions or equipment limitations. The program development team watched with professional interest as Alex prepared for the demonstration. Their expressions reflected the natural skepticism of experienced specialists encountering modified techniques that challenged conventional wisdom. Despite General Ellis's introduction and the impressive credentials presented, seeing would be believing for experts who had spent careers perfecting traditional approaches. The modified prone position represents significant departure from standard sniper techniques, Alex explained as she positioned herself behind the weapon. Conventional approaches assume physical dimensions that create specific contact points between operator and platform. Modified positioning reconfigures those contact points to maintain stability despite smaller frame dimensions. Her demonstration began with explaining the standard prone position taught in military sniper schools, highlighting specific elements that became problematic for smaller operators. The technical explanation was precise and educational rather than critical, treating conventional approaches as appropriate baselines that required adaptation rather than rejection. Standard technique places the rifle butt here, she demonstrated, indicating position against the shoulder. For operators with shorter arms and narrower shoulders, this creates overextension that compromises stability during recoil management. Alex then shifted to demonstrate her modified position, subtle adjustments that redistributed contact points, and altered body alignment to create stable shooting platform despite smaller physical dimensions. The changes appeared minor to casual observation, but represented fundamental reconfiguration of biomechanical relationships between operator and weapon. The modified position creates 3 additional stabilization points, she explained, indicating specific body-weapon contacts that conventional techniques didn't utilize. These compensate for reduced mass and provide consistent recoil management without requiring physical dimensions that smaller operators don't possess. The program development team observed with increasing interest, their initial skepticism giving way to professional curiosity, as Alex's explanation revealed technical depths beyond conventional training. Her approach treated marksmanship as engineering challenge rather than physical contest, substituting precise technique for raw size and strength. Davis watched with particular attention, his expression reflecting reconsideration of fundamental assumptions about what determined exceptional performance. His own demonstrations had relied on approaches that leveraged his substantial physical dimensions, techniques that had proven effective throughout his military career. But that would be impossible for someone of Alex's size to implement successfully. Ready to proceed with live-fire demonstration, the rangemaster announced after confirming all safety protocols. Environmental simulation systems are active and reproducing recorded conditions from the Kunar operation. Alex settled into her modified position with practiced precision, each movement economical and deliberate as she established optimal relationship with the weapon platform. The monitoring equipment displayed steady vital signs and controlled breathing patterns that reflected years of disciplined training rather than nervous anticipation. First target engagement will be conventional distance, 1,000 meters. The rangemaster explained for the program development team. Standard qualification distance for advanced marksmen. Alex's preparation continued without acknowledgement of the announcement, her focus entirely on establishing proper position and conducting mental preparation for the demonstration. Her discipline was evident in both her controlled breathing and the methodical adjustments that optimized her shooting platform before attempting engagement. The specialized facility fell silent as Alex prepared for the first shot. Even veterans like Davis and Jenkins, who had initially dismissed her capabilities, watched with newfound respect as they recognized the technical precision in her preparation. Whatever doubts had existed about her abilities had dissolved in the face of professional excellence that transcended physical dimensions or conventional assumptions. The first shot broke the silence with the distinctive report of the TAC-338. The sound triggering automatic data collection systems that would record every aspect of the engagement, from muzzle velocity to target impact. Alex's position remained stable throughout the recoil cycle, her modified technique managing forces that would have disrupted conventional positioning for someone of her size. Direct hit, center mass. The range master reported as target sensors transmitted impact data to monitoring systems. First-round accuracy consistent with expert qualification standards. The program development team exchanged impressed glances, but Alex remained focused on her shooting sequence, treating the initial engagement as preliminary rather than remarkable. Her approach reflected the professional standards she applied to all aspects of her performance. Exceptional results were expected baseline, not occasions for celebration or recognition. Transitioning to extended range targets, the range master announced. Environmental systems simulating variable wind conditions consistent with recorded data. The demonstration progressed through increasingly challenging engagements, with distances extending beyond conventional qualification parameters into the specialized domain of exceptional long-range marksmanship. Throughout the sequence, Alex maintained the same disciplined focus and technical precision, treating each shot as a discrete problem requiring specific calculations and adjustments. Dr. Winters monitored her physical condition with professional attention, tracking stress indicators and joint pressure measurements that would reveal any potential complications for her rehabilitation. His expression remained neutral but attentive, balancing medical responsibilities against the operational requirements of the demonstration. 2,000-meter target engagement, the range master announced, signaling transition to distances that exceeded standard military qualification parameters. Wind simulation active with variable vectors at 3 altitude levels. The program development team leaned forward slightly, their professional interest heightened by engagement parameters that would challenge even experienced snipers operating with optimal physical dimensions and equipment. At these distances, the complexities multiplied exponentially, requiring calculation of environmental factors that most marksmanship training never addressed. Alex adjusted her position slightly, the movement reflecting conscious compensation for extended time in prone position rather than nervous recalibration. Her modifications demonstrated the same technical precision that characterized her shooting, minimal adjustments that produced optimal results through systematic application rather than dramatic reconfiguration. The shot execution followed the same disciplined pattern, with controlled breathing, precise trigger manipulation, and stable position throughout the recoil cycle. The monitoring equipment displayed consistent performance metrics despite the significantly increased challenge, reflecting training that had systematically addressed each variable through deliberate practice and technical refinement. Direct hit center mass, the range master confirmed as target systems transmitted impact data. First-round accuracy at 2,000 meters. The program development team's expressions shifted from professional interest to genuine appreciation. Their experience with military marksmanship provided context for recognizing truly exceptional performance. What they were witnessing exceeded standard qualification parameters by margins that demanded acknowledgement regardless of the operator's physical dimensions or unconventional techniques. Final demonstration target at 2,847 meters, the range master announced, referring to the specific distance that matched Alex's record engagement. Full environmental simulation active, reproducing recorded conditions from the Kunar operation. This announcement created palpable shift in the specialized facility's atmosphere. The distance specified represented the longest confirmed engagement by any American operator in Afghanistan, a record that had been classified for operational security, but that had become known among specialists with appropriate clearances. The demonstration had progressed from professional education to recreation of historic achievement. Dr. Winters checked his monitoring equipment with heightened attention, aware that the final demonstration represented significant physical and mental challenge that might affect Alex's rehabilitation parameters. Current measurements within acceptable ranges, he noted quietly. 15 minutes remaining in authorized demonstration period. Alex acknowledged the medical update with slight nod, incorporating the time constraint into her operational planning just as she would account for tactical limitations in field conditions. Her preparation for the final engagement reflected the same systematic approach that had enabled her record-setting performance in actual combat conditions. The specialized facility fell completely silent as Alex calculated final adjustments for the extreme distance engagement. The target at 2,847 meters represented challenge beyond conventional military marksmanship. Distance where Earth's rotation affected bullet trajectory and atmospheric conditions created variables that most training programs never addressed. At this range, exceptional became extraordinary. Davis watched with particular attention, his expression revealing professional reassessment of assumptions that had guided his own military career. The demonstration had progressed beyond establishing Alex's credentials to challenging fundamental concepts about what determined exceptional performance in specialized military roles. The final shot execution demonstrated the same disciplined precision that had characterized every aspect of Alex's performance. There was no dramatic pause or special preparation, just the systematic application of exceptional technique developed through years of dedicated training and practical experience. The shot broke the silence with the distinctive report of the TAC-338, triggering final data collection sequence. The seconds between shot execution and impact confirmation stretched longer at extreme distance, creating natural tension as ballistics played out across unprecedented engagement parameters. The monitoring systems tracked the bullet's flight path through instrumented airspace, collecting data that would inform future training protocols and equipment development. Direct hit, center mass. The Rangemaster confirmed finally as target systems transmitted impact data. Confirmed engagement at 2,847 meters. Performance consistent with recorded data from the Kunar operation. The program development team exchanged glances that communicated professional appreciation beyond words. Their experience provided context for recognizing truly historic achievement. What they had witnessed represented marksmanship at levels that transcended conventional training parameters and established standards. Alex concluded her demonstration with the same methodical approach that had characterized her performance throughout. Proper weapon securing, systematic position disengagement, and professional attention to equipment condition. There was no dramatic flourish or moment of celebration, just the disciplined completion of assigned responsibilities. Dr. Winters checked final medical readings as Alex concluded her demonstration. All measurements remained within acceptable parameters. He confirmed. No indicators of excessive stress on the reconstructed joint. The modified positioning appears to distribute pressure effectively, even at extended duration. The program development team approached as Alex completed her equipment procedures, their expressions reflecting professional respect that had replaced any initial skepticism about modified techniques or non-traditional operators. Their questions focused on technical aspects rather than personal narrative. Exactly the professional exchange that Alex's approach had been designed to facilitate. The positioning modifications create significant stability advantages, noted the team's lead instructor, an experienced sniper with multiple combat deployments. The technique distributes recoil forces more effectively than standard approaches, even for operators with conventional dimensions. The observation highlighted unexpected benefit of Alex's modifications. Techniques developed to overcome size limitations actually improved fundamental aspects of marksmanship that applied to all operators regardless of physical dimensions. What had begun as adaptation had evolved into innovation that could enhance performance across the entire program. The applications extend beyond specialized roles, another team member added, recognizing broader implications. These principles could improve basic marksmanship training for all personnel, regardless of assignment or physical characteristics. As the technical discussion continued, Davis approached with professional respect that contrasted sharply with his initial dismissive attitude in the rehabilitation gym. His expression suggested someone reconciling new information with long-held assumptions. The challenging but necessary process of professional growth. "Morgan," he acknowledged with respectful nod. "That was the most impressive marksmanship I've witnessed in 20 years of service. The technical precision in your modified position. It's revolutionary." Alex accepted the acknowledgement with characteristic professionalism, neither dwelling on previous dismissal nor overemphasizing current recognition. Her focus remained on the operational objectives rather than personal vindication or social dynamics. "Different physical parameters require different technical approaches," she replied simply. "The principles apply across contexts once you identify the fundamental relationships." The exchange reflected transformed understanding that extended beyond marksmanship techniques to broader recognition of how diversity could enhance operational capabilities. Davis had begun the previous day dismissing Alex based on physical appearance. He concluded the demonstration recognizing that exceptional performance resulted from technical expertise rather than conventional physical characteristics. General Ellis joined the group as the program development team continued their technical discussion with Alex. His expression suggested satisfaction with demonstration outcomes that had exceeded even his expectations for establishing modified techniques. Effectiveness. The data confirms what operational results already demonstrated, quote, he noted, reviewing preliminary analysis from the monitoring systems. These techniques produce exceptional performance metrics that validate their inclusion in formal training protocols. The statement represented significant institutional evolution, acknowledgement that non-traditional approaches deserved formal recognition and implementation, rather than remaining individualized adaptations developed by operators working outside established parameters. What had begun as personal necessity had become professional innovation with program-wide implications. As the demonstration concluded and equipment securing procedures began, Captain Garcia approached with tablet, displaying preliminary feedback from the program development team. They're unanimously recommending immediate implementation of your modified techniques into the training protocols, she reported. The demonstration exceeded all performance metrics they had established for validation. Alex reviewed the feedback with characteristic focus on technical details rather than personal recognition. Her interest centered on how effectively the modifications would be integrated into formal training, rather than acknowledgement of her individual contribution to their development. The position modifications will require specialized instruction, she noted, identifying implementation requirements with the same precision she brought to all operational planning. Standard instructors will need additional training in the biomechanical principles before they can effectively teach these techniques. Ellis nodded agreement, already considering logistical requirements for program implementation. That's precisely why we need you at Fort Benning, he replied. Developing the instructor certification protocols will be your first priority once the transfer is approved. The discussion continued as they exited the specialized facility, focusing on practical aspects of implementing modified techniques rather than celebrating their validation. Alex's approach remained consistent, treating exceptional performance as expected baseline rather than occasion for special recognition. Outside the secure facility, Davis waited with Jenkins and Collins, their expressions suggesting significant reconsideration of previous assumptions about what determined operational effectiveness. Their demonstration performances had established them as exceptional marksmen by conventional standards, but Alex's exhibition had revealed possibilities beyond traditional approaches. Morgan, Davis said as the group converged near the transportation area, some of us are meeting this evening to discuss technical aspects of the new program. Your insights would be valuable if you're available. The invitation represented meaningful evolution from their initial encounter, professional respect, replacing dismissive skepticism, as direct observation eliminated assumptions based on physical appearance or conventional expectations. What had begun as confrontational hierarchy had transformed into collaborative exchange between specialists with complementary expertise. After medical clearance, Alex replied, indicating Dr. Winters, who had maintained professional oversight throughout the demonstration. Current protocols include recovery period following extended prone positioning. Winters consulted his monitoring data before responding. The demonstration measurements remained within acceptable parameters, he confirmed. Standard recovery procedures should be sufficient without additional restrictions. Medical clearance approved for normal evening activities. The exchange reflected the balanced approach that characterized Alex's recovery process, disciplined adherence to rehabilitation protocols while avoiding unnecessary limitations that would restrict professional development. Her methodology treated medical guidelines as operational parameters rather than absolute restrictions, applying the same systematic assessment she brought to all aspects of her military service. As transportation arrangements were finalized and the specialized facility secured, Rivera arrived to observe the demonstration conclusion. His timing suggested intentional discretion, maintaining appropriate distance during the formal evaluation while appearing afterward to acknowledge its significance. Heard it went well, he noted conversationally as the group prepared to disperse. Something about first-round impacts at distances that would make most snipers question their life choices. The comment carried professional humor that acknowledged both the exceptional nature of Alex's performance and the transformed understanding it had created among observers. What had begun as specialized demonstration had evolved into paradigm shift regarding what determined operational effectiveness in military roles traditionally defined by physical dimensions. The modified techniques performed as expected, Alex replied with characteristic understatement. The program development team collected sufficient data for implementation planning. Rivera exchanged knowing glance with Ellis, both recognizing Alex's consistent approach to exceptional performance, treating extraordinary results as expected outcomes rather than occasions for celebration or recognition. Her professional standard remained constant, regardless of context or audience. Morgan makes history sound like filing paperwork, Rivera observed to the group. SET's longest confirmed engagement record in Afghanistan describes it as sufficient data collection. Saves an entire special operations team with a shot that most people couldn't make in perfect conditions, calls it performing as expected. The comment broke remaining tension with professional humor that acknowledged both Alex's exceptional capabilities and her characteristically modest presentation of achievements that others would consider historic. The resulting laughter created natural conclusion to demonstration that had transformed understanding among all participants. As the group dispersed toward their respective responsibilities, Davis paused near Alex with expression suggesting unresolved consideration. "The Purple Heart," he said after brief hesitation. "I owe you another apology for dismissing it yesterday. Clearly there's more to that story than I understood." "Combat injuries aren't competitions," Alex replied simply. "We all serve according to our capabilities. Different roles, same mission." The exchange reflected her consistent philosophy, treating military service as collaborative effort rather than hierarchical contest, where some contributions deserved greater recognition than others. Her approach valued technical excellence and mission accomplishment above personal recognition or social status. The day concluded with final planning session for Alex's potential transfer to Fort Benning. Dr. Winters reviewed modified rehabilitation protocols that would accommodate instructional responsibilities while maintaining recovery progress. Captain Garcia coordinated administrative requirements for specialized assignment that crossed traditional organizational boundaries. General Ellis established program priorities that would translate demonstration results into institutional implementation. Throughout these discussions, Alex maintained the same focused attention and technical precision that had characterized her military service and recovery process. Her contributions focused on practical implementation rather than personal recognition, treating program development as operational mission rather than individual achievement. "The transfer paperwork will be finalized Monday morning," Garcia confirmed as they concluded the planning session. "Medical protocols have been approved for continued rehabilitation at Fort Benning, with Dr. Winters providing remote consultation as needed." Alex nodded acknowledgement, her decision already made based on systematic assessment of program requirements and potential contribution rather than personal preferences or comfort considerations. The opportunity to transform individual adaptation into institutional improvement aligned perfectly with her professional approach to military service. "I'll be ready," she replied simply, accepting new mission parameters with the same disciplined focus she brought to all professional responsibilities. The instructor certification protocols should be prioritized to ensure consistent implementation of modified techniques. As the meeting concluded and participants dispersed toward weekend responsibilities, Davis approached one final time. His expression suggested someone still reconciling new information with established assumptions, the challenging but necessary process of professional growth. "Morgan," he said with sincere respect that contrasted sharply with his initial dismissive attitude, "I've been thinking about something you said yesterday. Technical excellence is always worth pursuing. That demonstration today showed me what that really means." Alex acknowledged his comment with professional courtesy, treating the transformed understanding as natural outcome of direct observation rather than personal vindication or social achievement. Her focus remained on operational effectiveness rather than interpersonal dynamics. "Questioning assumptions often reveals improvements," she replied, the statement summarizing philosophy that had guided both her military service and personal recovery. "Progress comes from systematic assessment rather than conventional expectations." The exchange represented fitting conclusion to transformation that had begun with dismissive skepticism and concluded with professional respect. What Davis had initially perceived as limitation, Alex's smaller physical dimensions, had ultimately revealed innovation that improved performance beyond conventional approaches. 3 months later, the specialized training facility at Fort Benning hosted its first cohort of female snipers selected for the Modified Techniques program. The training bay hummed with focused activity as operators worked through precision exercises designed to develop the biomechanical relationships that Alex's modifications had pioneered. Alex moved through the training area with measured steps that revealed continued improvement in her reconstructed knee. Her gait showed the subtle asymmetry that most observers would never notice, but that represented significant progress from where her recovery had begun. The physical therapy protocols developed at the VA Medical Center had transferred effectively to the military facility, maintaining rehabilitation progress while accommodating instructional responsibilities. The instructor team included both Davis and Rivera, their complementary expertise providing comprehensive perspective that benefited all program participants. What had begun as confrontational hierarchy in the rehabilitation gym had evolved into professional collaboration focused on enhancing operational capabilities regardless of operator dimensions or conventional assumptions. The third position modification is showing consistent improvement in stability metrics. Davis reported, reviewing performance data with the systematic attention that effective instruction required. Operators with shorter arm dimensions are showing 15% better recoil management using the adjusted contact points. Alex reviewed the analysis with characteristic focus on technical details rather than personal validation. Though the modified techniques bore her name in program documentation, her interest remained centered on operational effectiveness rather than individual recognition. The stock dimension adjustments are contributing significantly, she noted, identifying specific factors in the performance improvements. The modified length of pull creates more efficient force distribution throughout the recoil cycle. Their professional exchange continued with detailed assessment of individual operators, progress and potential adjustments to training protocols based on observed results. The discussion reflected transformed understanding that valued technical expertise regardless of source, recognizing that exceptional performance resulted from systematic development rather than conventional physical characteristics. In the facility's observation area, General Ellis conducted program review with visiting officers whose interest in the modified techniques had spread beyond specialized sniper training to broader marksmanship applications. The demonstration's results had created momentum for examining how similar principles might enhance performance across multiple military specialties. The performance metrics speak for themselves, Ellis explained, displaying data from the initial training cohort. Operators using modified techniques consistently outperform conventional approaches at extended distances, regardless of physical dimensions. The visiting officers included both operational commanders and training specialists, their presence reflecting institutional recognition that individual adaptation had evolved into innovation deserving formal implementation. What had begun as Alex's personal necessity had become professional advancement, with military-wide implications. The applications extend beyond specialized sniper roles, one visitor noted, recognizing broader potential. These principles could improve basic marksmanship training for all personnel, particularly those whose physical dimensions don't match standard equipment designs. As the program review continued, Alex conducted individual coaching session with operator whose performance metrics had plateaued below expected progression. Her approach remained focused on technical precision rather than motivational rhetoric, treating marksmanship as engineering challenge rather than physical contest. The position modification needs to account for your specific shoulder geometry, she explained, demonstrating subtle adjustment that created more effective contact point between operator and weapon. The standard modification assumes skeletal structure that doesn't match your individual dimensions. The personalized instruction reflected core principle that had guided Alex's own development, recognizing that effective techniques required adaptation to individual characteristics rather than forcing diverse operators to conform to standardized approaches. Her methodology treated each operator as a unique system, requiring specific calibration rather than generic implementation of predetermined techniques. As the training day concluded, Davis coordinated equipment securing while Rivera conducted final briefing for the operator cohort. Their collaborative approach reflected professional evolution that transcended initial misconceptions and created an educational environment where diverse expertise enhanced everyone's development. Tomorrow's extended distance exercise will incorporate variable wind conditions, Rivera announced, establishing expectations for the next training sequence. The calculations require accounting for multiple environmental factors simultaneously, just as you would encounter in actual operational environments. The briefing reflected transformed understanding of what determined exceptional performance, recognition that technical expertise and systematic preparation created operational effectiveness regardless of physical dimensions or conventional assumptions. What had begun as specialized adaptation had evolved into a comprehensive approach that enhanced capabilities across diverse operator profiles. In her office adjacent to the training facility, Alex reviewed performance data from the day's exercises with the same methodical attention she brought to all professional responsibilities. Her analysis identified both individual progress and potential adjustments to training protocols based on observed patterns across the operator cohort. The Purple Heart remained discreetly displayed on her desk, not prominently positioned for attention but present as a reminder of both operational experience and recovery journey. The medal represented not personal achievement but professional milestone in military service that had consistently valued technical excellence and mission accomplishment above individual recognition. A photograph stood beside it, the only personal item in otherwise functional space dedicated to professional responsibilities. The image captured mountain ridgeline in Afghanistan's Kunar province, terrain features visible in sharp relief against clear sky background. Only those with appropriate clearances would recognize the significance. The exact location where Alex had made the record-setting shot that saved an entire special operations team while demonstrating what technical excellence truly meant. For those who understood its context, the photograph represented perfect summary of Alex Morgan's approach to both military service and personal recovery, quiet competence that accomplished extraordinary results through systematic preparation rather than dramatic display. The unassuming image contained no people, no weapons, no indicators of historic achievement, just the terrain where preparation had met opportunity with results that spoke for themselves. The evening found the instructor team gathered for informal review session that had become regular occurrence since the program's inception. Their discussions focused on technical improvements rather than personal narratives, treating exceptional performance as expected baseline rather than special accomplishment. The modified stock dimensions are showing consistent improvements across the entire cohort, Davis noted, reviewing consolidated performance data. Even operators with conventional physical dimensions are benefiting from the adjusted contact points. The observation highlighted unexpected outcome that had emerged during program implementation. Techniques developed to accommodate smaller operators actually improved fundamental aspects of marksmanship that applied across all physical profiles. What had begun as adaptation had evolved into innovation that enhanced everyone's performance. Technical excellence transcends physical dimensions, Alex replied, the statement summarizing philosophy that had guided her military service and now informed her instructional approach. Improved biomechanics benefit all operators once you identify the fundamental relationships. Their professional exchange continued with detailed assessment of specific modifications and potential refinements based on observed results. The discussion reflected transformed understanding of what determined exceptional performance. Recognition that systematic preparation and technical expertise created operational effectiveness regardless of physical appearance or conventional expectations. As the review session concluded and team members dispersed toward evening responsibilities, Davis remained briefly, his expression suggesting continuing reflection on professional evolution that had begun in rehabilitation gym months earlier. Morgan, he acknowledged with respectful nod that contrasted sharply with his initial dismissive attitude. I keep thinking about something you said back at the VA center. Different roles, same mission. That perspective has changed how I approach this entire program. Alex accepted the comment with characteristic professionalism, treating transformed understanding as natural outcome of direct observation rather than personal vindication. Her focus remained on operational effectiveness rather than interpersonal dynamics. Technical excellence is its own validation. She replied simply, the statement summarizing approach that had guided both her military service and personal recovery. Results speak for themselves. The exchange captured essence of transformation that extended beyond individual relationships to institutional understanding of what created exceptional performance in military contexts. What had begun as confrontational hierarchy based on physical appearance had evolved into professional collaboration focused on enhancing capabilities through technical excellence and systematic preparation. Outside the training facility, sunset painted the Fort Benning landscape in golden light that emphasized both military tradition and continuous evolution. The installation represented both institutional stability and ongoing adaptation, balancing established procedures with emerging capabilities that enhanced operational effectiveness in changing environments. Alex watched the sunset briefly before returning to her performance analysis, treating natural beauty as momentary observation, rather than distraction from professional responsibilities. Her approach remained consistent, focused attention on technical details that created exceptional results through systematic preparation rather than dramatic display. The Modified Techniques program continued expanding beyond its initial parameters, with applications extending to multiple military specialties where diverse physical dimensions had previously created unnecessary limitations. What had begun as Alex Morgan's personal adaptation had evolved into institutional innovation that enhanced capabilities across the entire military establishment. Her Purple Heart represented not just individual sacrifice but broader principle that guided both her recovery and instructional approach. Quiet competence accomplishing extraordinary results through technical excellence rather than conventional expectations. The medal's significance lay not in its physical presence but in the transformed understanding it represented about what truly determined exceptional performance in military service. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.